series loss for the Yankees, this time against the Blue Jays again. So the Yankees are now 5-7 on the season, only 12 games, but they are not playing well, and they deserve to be below 500. Their record could actually be worse than it is. They're in some ways fortunate they're only 5-7, even though a lot of these losses have been close. For the most part, it's not like they're getting demolished or anything, but it's just been pretty bland baseball and a lot of mistakes and just porous hitting. And beyond Garrett Cole, who's been fantastic, predictably, the rest of the rotation has question marks. Major question marks. So it's not the record that I'm concerned with at all. It's the way that they're playing. And they just now lost 2 out of 3 to Toronto, a series that, like I said, it would have been nice to have won 2 out of 3, especially since Toronto had beaten the Yanks in the first series at the stadium 2 out of 3. So now going to this Tampa Bay series, it's certainly, like, this early in the season, there are no musts. There just aren't. But you really want to win 2 out of 3 this weekend against Tampa. I think that would be very important. And to play well in those games too. You know, typically the Yankees, for the most part, are a good home team. That's been the case recently. They did go 3-3 to start the year, which wasn't great, but this will be a key series this weekend. But let's talk about this Blue Jays series. So the Yankees got the win in the first game, and it was really thanks to 2 players, Garrett Cole and Kyle Higashioka. The Yankees only mustered up 4 hits. No hits for the 1 through 6 hitters in the lineup. And in this game, Aaron Hicks was not in the lineup. And due to the incident in Minnesota, he's a former Twin, hit him hard. He did not play in this game. He excused himself from the game. And they made a slight lineup tweak. Keep in mind that Robbie Ray was on the mound for the Blue Jays, a left-handed starter. They actually had Stanton bat second and Judge bat third, which they would do in the first and second game. Again, both against lefties. The third game was not. But really, the offense didn't get much of anything going. And Cole got into trouble early. He would give up a run in the first inning. And then it would be first and second, no outs in the second. And then from there, Cole got the next 15 outs. So he would end up going 6 innings, 3 hits, one earned run, a walk, and 8 strikeouts. Just brilliant from Cole when it really looked like it was going to get away from him. That's what the greats do. He was able to bear down and just work his way through it. And, you know, it wasn't as dominant as that Oriole outing. That was fantastic. But he did a good job where that opening day start against Toronto, again, the end results weren't terrible, but it just, he didn't have a slider that day. Great job by Cole here. And the Yankee offense was struggling pretty badly until the 5th, when with 1 out, Rougned Odor gets a single. And to that point, they had been no hits. And then Kyle Higashioka hits a 2-run over to right center field, makes it 2-1. So huge home run for Higashioka, and him catching Cole just makes a lot of sense in more ways than one. And it certainly doesn't hurt when Higashioka is going to show off his power. So you end up getting a 1-2-3 inning out of Justin Wilson in the 7th, who would replace Cole. And then in the top of the 8th, Higashioka does it again. This time to left center field off of Ryan Borucki to make it 3-1. So Higashioka really making his presence felt. And that was the offense. That was it. They had 4 hits and got a little bit dicey in the bottom of the 8th, where Darren O'Day would get himself into a first and second 2-out jam, but he would strike out Vlad Guerrero. And then Aroldis Chapman, after a leadoff double by Yankee killer Randall Grichuk, ends up getting the next 3 outs. The final strikeout to Rowdy Tellez definitely was low. That certainly was not strike 3. It was called strike 3, and the Yankees win the game 3-1 to even their season record at that time to 5-5. So again, in those cold starts, you really got to get wins, and in 2 out of 3 cases this year, they have done so. So moving on to game 2, and this would be Hunshin Ryu for the Blue Jays against Jameson Taillon for the Yankees. Now, Taillon had a good first outing against the Orioles. Didn't go deep, but I thought pitched well. Gave up a couple of solo home runs, and the Yankees would eventually lose the game. But this was a big win for... it was a good first outing for Taillon. So, in terms of Game 2, basically, I didn't think Taillon really had great stuff in this game and would be really victimized by Josh Palacios in the second. He had gotten into some trouble. It's bases loaded. There's 2 outs, and he gives up a 2-run single to Palacios. So he was kind of playing with fire for a little bit there, and then he got burnt. He would give up another run in the third. Randall Grichuk getting a sac fly, and Ryu basically just shutting the Yanks down for the better part of, the first, certainly 6 innings. Yankees couldn't get anything going. And in this game, again, they went with, Stanton batting second, Judge batting third. Sanchez moves up to clean up. Glaber did not play in the second game. Gio Urshela ends up starting his first game at shortstop as a Yankee. Torres jammed his finger, sliding back into first place in the first game. Torres would be fine. He would play in the third game, so just a 1-game injury. And so Urshela would start at short. And Aaron Hicks would bat fifth. Again, their lineup against lefties is a little bit different than against righties. But, Taillon really struggled, was getting hit hard. And he would give up a solo shot to Simeon in the fourth. And an RBI double to Vlad Guerrero in the fifth. So at that point, it's 5-0. And then Rowdy Tellez would homer in the fifth off of Lucas Licky. So, game is 5-0. It makes sense to bring in Licky. Sessa gives you a couple scoreless innings along the way. And the Yankees would claw back a little bit. They would get an RBI ground out by Rougned Odor in the seventh. And so that would make it 6-1. And the key part would be in the top of the eighth. This is probably the highlight of the game, where Giancarlo Stanton gets a big 2-run, somewhat big, 2-run single at the time. Good piece hitting by Stanton, who has struggled mightily this year. Gets a big 2-run single to make it 6-3. And then Judge, and this is off of Jordan Romano, who out of all of the Toronto relievers that I've seen this year against the Yanks has probably struggled the most because their bullpen's been mostly good against the Yankees. Judge hits a deep fly ball to right, but only warning track power. So then Gary Sanchez walks. So they bring in Julian Merriweather. Interesting. So here's kind of the interesting about Merriweather. He ends up going on the IL after this game. And as it turns out, he would not end up facing a single batter. And what happens is it's first and second. There's 2 outs. Aaron Hicks is the tying run. They bring in Merriweather. He replaces Romano. And on the... Okay, so yeah, it's 1-0. On the 1-0 pitch, it's a ball in the dirt that barely gets past Danny Jansen. And Stanton scampers over to third. And Sanchez should have gotten to... Again, keep in mind, the tying run is Hicks. Sanchez, really ideally, should have easily got over second. But then once he didn't, okay, your run is not that important. It's the 8th inning, so somewhat so. And he gets caught in a pickle. Jansen throws it to Guerrero, the first baseman, and then it's a rundown, and Sanchez is easily tagged out. I mean, Jack Curry said after the game, that's something that you shouldn't see in high school ball. Now, here's the thing about Sanchez. He has actually been the least of their problems so far this season. In this 5-7 season, Sanchez has been least of their problems, but that is just a terrible mistake, and it's typical for Sanchez. Just not quite thinking out there, not thinking fast enough. I mean, that's the last thing you can do in that situation, so their best opportunity in the game doesn't even happen. And we've seen these base running issues so far this year. The Gardner play where they would eventually win, but there's just been sloppy mistakes all over the place this season. Beyond the just lackluster offense and the bad pitching, we're just seeing defensive miscues and base running mistakes. So they would bring in Albert Abreu in the 8th. He would give up a run. So that would make it 7-3. and Merriweather wouldn't pitch the ninth. And I was wondering at the time, well, I guess because maybe they added another run, they didn't want to waste Merriweather, but maybe it was the injury. So either way, Yanks don't do anything there, and they lose 7-3. And I guess, Ryu versus Tyone, not a terribly surprising result, although they've hit Ryu in the past. So, but they did struggle against him on opening day as well. So now you're going into this rubber game. And it's important for the Yanks to win that game. Just because, again, they lost that opening series to Toronto. They're coming off a series loss to Tampa. And this is Corey Kluber, who has struggled. And it's against TJ Zoik, who is replacing Ross Stripling, who is a late scratch. So Zoik, who actually pitched well against the Yankees in the rubber game at the stadium, would start this game. A good start for the Yanks. Aaron Judge, who has looked healthy, hits a home run in the first inning. And Kluber would struggle early, would escape trouble in the first, but not in the second. In the second, with one out on an 0-2 pitch, Rowdy Tellez gets a single. That, you never, on an 0-2 pitch, he just kept it 2 up. And Tellez gets a single. Next batter, Alejandro Kirk, who had been, I believe, hitless at that point in the season, hits a 2-run home run to make it 2-1. So we saw a lot of that this series where Tellez had struggled, but then kind of broke out this series, and Kirk as well. So that would make it 2-1. And in the bottom of the third, Bo Bichette, opposite field home run, 3-1. So again, Kluber was really getting into trouble each inning, but the Yankees in the fourth, Aaron Judge leads off and homers. So 2 home runs for Judge, and that is a good thing to see. Judge, he looks healthy right now. How long it'll last, I have no idea. But that makes it 3-2. Then Brett Gardner walks, Sanchez flies out, Gleyber Torres gets a double, and then with second and third one out, Jay Bruce strikes out. Jay Bruce, really, I would be surprised if by when we speak next after the Rays series, would not be surprised, and the hope is that he's gone by then. Jay Bruce has been awful. He's batting 118. He's out of place at first base. Just, you got to forget about it. And, whether that be Mike Ford that gets a chance, whether it's Derek Dietrich, whether it's Chris Gittens, whatever it might be, Jay Bruce needs to be gone. And I'm kind of hoping that'll be the case by tomorrow. But, he's one of many problems going on right now. But, again, for him to be batting 6th today, you got to stop with this. I mean, they're so dependent on handedness that he would be batting ahead of Gio Urshela. Luckily, Bruce struck out, but the inning didn't end. And Urshela would bail him out with a clutch 2-run single. Again, Gio is one of the guys that I would probably prefer up at the plate in a big situation like that. He makes it 4-3. And Kluber gets into a little bit of trouble in the fourth, but gets a big inning-ending double play, Bo Bichette. So Kluber would be done after 4. Zoik would be done after 4. So Loaizaga comes in the 5th, and with 2 outs, Kevin Biggio hits a shot to right where Judge tries to kind of make a shoestring catch, and it goes under his glove. Ends up being a triple. For some reason, Biggio ends up trying to go home. I think he thought that the throw went past Urshela at third. It's the only thing that makes sense. And Biggio is out. So Yankees got lucky there. But they wouldn't be so lucky in the 6th. In the 6th, Gurriel hits a leadoff single. Then Tellez singles. And then what was a real killer was Alejandro Kirk, close pitch that he takes that they call a ball that could have been strike 3. Next pitch, he hits him. So a big hit by pitch to Kirk. Bases loaded, no outs. They do get Josh Palacios grounding out to Bruce, throws the guy out at home. But Loaizaga, it was ruled a wild pitch when Simeon was at the plate. A run would score. Honestly, Higashioka should have stopped this ball. I put the blame on Higgy for that one. He didn't get in front of it. He kind of tried to backhand it, and it would lead to a run. And actually, they would afford further damage, so it kind of made it hurt more. So that would tie the game up at 4. And again, listless for the Yanks. Listless offense for the Yanks. So they go down 1-2-3 in the 7th, and then Darren O'Day comes in. The bottom of the 7th does his job, pitches a scoreless inning. And Aaron Judge would get a single in the 8th, but nothing would come of it, and the Yankees would only get 6 hits today. Too frequently, it's not even so much about not getting the clutch hit. I mean, that's part of it, but they're just simply not doing enough offensively in general. Justin Wilson pitches a scoreless 8th. So again, the bullpen for the most part continues to pitch well. In the 9th, Rafael Dolis is on, Gleyber Torres grounds out, Jay Bruce strikes out, what a surprise, and then Gio Urshela lines out, which then brings it to the bottom of the 9th, and Chad Green comes in. And not because Chad Green had been ineffective. In fact, I think Chad Green is one of their most relied upon bullpen arms. I wanted to see Chapman, just because I don't trust Chapman as much in those extra innings where there's runner on second. And so, like, this isn't necessarily so much a second guess, because what ends up happening is Bo Bichette hits his second home run of the game. And Bo Bichette is impressive. This is, I think, out of all the Toronto young kids, he's their best one. And Bichette hits a home run, walk-off homer off of Chad Green. So, my complaints are not so much, like, Green ends up messing up anyway, so it doesn't matter, but I wouldn't have minded seeing Chapman in the 9th and then Green in extra innings. Doesn't matter. Blue Jays win it 5-4. To drop the Yankees to 5-7. And look, I mean, just in terms of the division, the Red Sox are on an 8-game winning streak. It's, one of those things where we got to see how this unfolds, but the Yankees got to turn this around. They're not looking very good. They're not looking very sharp, and you hope that Brian Cashman and company are, on high alert, because these have been key divisional games, and they got to turn the tide. And hopefully this weekend they can, because, we're going to see what happens when it comes to these pitching matchups, because you got basically a bullpen game Friday. Maybe not so much a bullpen game. I think Michael King is going to be the starter, if I had to guess. It's possible it's Davey Garcia. It's possible they go straight bullpen game. But I think probable matchups, a little bit too far out to tell. Yankees have an off day. But likely it's going to be something like this. It's going to be Michael King versus probably a bullpen-like day for Tampa. Maybe you see like Michael Wacha, Brett, and Honeywell. Saturday, if I had to guess, it might be Montgomery versus Glasnow. And then Sunday, Cole versus Yarborough. That would be my early guess. That could change, but point being there is, like, the Friday, like, you got to win that Cole game. The Glasnow game is going to be tough, so if we assume that the Yanks win the Cole game and the Rays win the Glasnow game, that first game is going to be pretty big if they want to win this series. So we'll see what happens, and, I guess I'm glad that this upcoming series is not at the Trop, but the Yankees really have to win this series coming up here. So I'll talk to you then.